Welcome to the Not Just a Pony Ride podcast, presented to you by Hetra University. If you've landed here, you're probably passionate about how horses help people. Whether you're an instructor, therapist, in the business, or have experienced equine assisted services yourself, we're glad you're here. Join us as we talk about the benefits, the science, to-dos, how-tos, and all of the reasons why what we do is so much more than just a pony ride. And now, from the Hetra campus in Gretna, Nebraska, here's your host, occupational therapist Katie King.
Hey everyone, did you catch part 1 of this episode? So episode 23, part 1, was last week. And if you haven't heard that, go back and listen to that first before this one, because that's where you're going to hear a little bit more about our guests today, Debbie Anderson and Blair McKissock of Strides to Success. And they tell you in part 1 why they are such experts in the field of equine assisted learning. And they drop some pretty helpful resources to us in that episode, like the core competencies document and the official guidelines for equine assisted learning. So if you've heard all that stuff, great, you are in the right place because this is part 2. So today, Debbie is about to give you all a quick and effective way to tell if you are still in your scope of equine assisted learning as a facilitator. And she gives us a great concrete example to follow with that, which is super helpful, I think. Blair and Debbie also help answer questions like what responsibilities you have as an EAL facilitator and how they are here to help people who are really passionate and want to get started in this field. So enjoy.
Well, and the competencies do a good job too of helping to define that scope of practice. Deb, do you want to kind of speak to some of those differences between the EAL and the therapy?
Right. The differences between the two. And I think, Debbie, you had talked a little bit about how sometimes it does cross the line a little bit into therapy, but you don't have necessarily a specific credential or anything for that right now, but what are some of the differences or what kind of, I guess, prerequisites should you have before you start doing some EAL?
Well, I think got some wonderful resources out now that like trauma-informed courses and stuff that you can take that are really beneficial to understanding the populations that you're going to get. And what I mean by that is we're working with the same populations that are in therapy. They have the same issues and they have the same, experiences and the same traumas that they're bringing to you. But as a professional, you need to identify what your job is. So let's say a young lady comes to your center and she's not wanting to go to school. She experienced a sexual trauma at a party and she refuses to see a therapist. And her mother cannot get her to a therapist. Does she need therapy? Absolutely. Do we turn her away because she won't see a therapist? No. What EAL can do is EAL can help her to build trust in the facility that we're in, to build trust with the horses, to help her find her voice and be able to express herself. And then once she's comfortable, at least this is how it works at Strides, we have therapists right there in our facility that we transition her into. Now, I know not everybody has that luxury of having, we've got 4 private practices and many of our equine specialists are also therapists, even though they're not practicing therapy. And so that's a benefit too, that they can spot, when a person really needs to go into therapy. One kind of vague rule that we have, or rule not just just a way of telling, if you're looking into the past, if you're looking into someone's past, then that might be an indication that you're looking into the trauma that they experienced, and that would probably be a big warning sign for an EAL instructor to say, gosh, I'm sorry that happened, to you, but we need to look at what is it that you need for tomorrow to get up and find the courage to get to school. So we need to focus on finding your courage, not processing that trauma. That is for a therapist to do. There's developmental compromises that happen when there's a trauma. And as an EAL, instructor, I am not capable of going back and looking at the developmental compromises and repairing those. That's what a therapist does. And so that's in adolescence. Treating PTSD and treating, a lot of trauma that happens in adults. That is clearly the expertise of a therapist. But an EAL practitioner, what they can do is they can, again, help that person find motivation. They can help that person, find self-worth. They can help that person that maybe comes to them with depression. They can help them find energy. What does it feel like? You can take someone out in the round pen, and if they have trouble getting up in bed and there's just no motivation there, you can take them to the round pen and you can ask them just simply, hey, stay within this parameter in the center of the arena, but your task is just to move that horse once around the arena without leaving the center of the arena. Just try it. And they'll try, and maybe the horse will go, maybe the horse won't, but it's all based on, as we know, energy. And if that person can feel the energy again that it takes to move that horse once around the arena, then it's going to benefit them. They're going to go, oh, now I remember how much energy it takes just to do a simple task. And maybe the next day it'll be a little bit easier, motivation, things like that. That is in the EAL bailiwick, but exploring the events and the occurrences that brought a person to that state is definitely therapy. I would encourage every single person that does EAL, or every single center that even considers EAL, to have an established therapist or therapy center that they work with, and that they consult with. It would be ill-advised not to have that safety net and that relationship with therapists in the community.
Well, and that's why those facilitation skills are so important, Deb, because one, you have to know how to keep a client. You have to be able to recognize their body language, recognize what's going on in the responses of the horse and the negotiation of the relationship, to be able to tell when a client might be moving into that area, because it may come to a point where they can't move forward in EAL unless they get past something that keeps popping up. And so that's a perfect time to do the referral. Like Debbie always talks about the fact that EAL is a really good gateway back to therapy, right? So if that kiddo that refuses to go, maybe spending some time in EAL puts them back into a place of, you know what, maybe it's nothing to be resistant to. Maybe it could be helpful. And then once they reach a certain milestone in therapy, then maybe they move back into EAL or a more coaching type of relationship where it's about getting those skills and putting everything that they learned in therapy into practice so they can transfer it. But that's why those facilitation skills are so important, because you have to be able to recognize what's going on in the dynamic, to know, hey, maybe I need to steer away from that and I need to make a shift and to do something different so that we don't go down that rabbit hole, because that's not where we want to go. We need to stay focused over here. It's still important in EAL to do some sort of a reflection at the end of a session, right? Again, that's part of the experiential model. That's part of, education and learning models, is to help somebody make sense of what they learned so that they can apply it to everyday life. And I think that that's really, again, what separates out and what defines the fact that somebody who does EAL really does need additional training. And if somebody begins to open up and really kind of starts to have a moment, how do you hold that space and put them together safely so that you can get them to a referral? Do you know how to de-escalate somebody?
Right.
Do you know how to redirect and steer? Or what happens when the horse all of a sudden just, takes off and they experience something and they're like, wait, they'll sometimes know before we do that something has changed in that client. And do you recognize what that means? So
it seems to me almost, irresponsible as a professional to not be prepared for those moments for our participants, and also to, irresponsible to not know where to tell them to go, for further, like you said, having a therapist or mental health practitioner that you do referrals to, or in-house, either way. Once they have those moments, I mean, those are such imperative moments to capitalize on to then help them find the next step, or, that sort of thing. And so us as practitioners, that seems like our responsibility, if you're going to be doing that type of work, to be able to be prepared to do that.
Yeah, it's a skill.
Yeah, I would totally agree with that. And I know that Strides is, the way that we're set up is very unique, I think, with all the therapists that we have, in-house, so to speak. We're part of case management. We consult with the therapist on a daily basis, not only for our clients, but also for ourselves. We encounter, we work mostly with complex trauma in our mental health program. And there's times when there's transference issues, and, we need to help support each other. So even hearing the sad stories of foster care, the sad stories from Department of Children's Services, from the kids that you work with, even school kids that come to you, and they may come as part of a school group and they open up to you, how do you redirect that? How do you get the right professional involved to support that child? And how do you turn it off at night, or do you turn it off at night when you go home and you work with your own children? And how do you take care of yourself? Because in EAL, whether you're supporting a mental health therapist in therapy, or whether you're managing, your own EAL classes, it's a lot to navigate, and it takes a very high level of expertise, in my opinion, for anyone to be able to properly and safely facilitate EAL and be a support to a therapist in a mental health session.
And I think we would be remiss to not point out the obvious. The big difference between therapy and learning is that a therapist is credentialed, right? They've had the education, they have the licensure, the certification, or whatever, to be a counselor, to be a therapist. And that's why in the consensus document, it's professional first.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't matter whether you choose to use a horse or not, you're a therapist.
Right.
you choose, don't want to say the word use, but you choose to partner with horses for your therapy modality. So, that's always the biggest difference between that. And then, yeah.
I always think of a surgeon doing surgery, and then I think of his support team or her support team, that surgical nurse that anticipates what that surgeon needs, and is right there and is prepping and doing closing. And EAL is a lot like that. It's like, you're not going to do surgery. We're the support pieces. We're the pre and the post, and the teaching of life skills, the building up. But the surgeon is going to do the trauma work.
So let's talk a little bit about that, just a little. So the nurses or the people who are helping the surgeon, right, still have to have their own education to know what to do. So if someone wanted to get started in EAL, they wanted to get their feet wet, where would you say that is the best place for them to start?
Well, I would love for them to come call us.
That's right. Absolutely.
We have online courses. We have curriculums that are written, that many people say, "Oh, thank you we don't have to recreate the wheel." We pull in, for example, some of our EAL curriculums, they pull in and are tied in with the Search Institute's developmental assets. Also, if they're coming at it from an academic support, type of teaching, we've got that in there. We've got our latest curriculum is called Treasures. And it's my favorite, really, because it's not a curriculum in that you have to go from A to Z. You can, as an instructor, you can say, "Oh, my kids really need to focus on some self-esteem issues or some connection," and there's lessons for that. And so you can skip around in it to whatever is appropriate and use your own judgment as an instructor. And I really like that. And then there's online courses that we have developed because we work with many people internationally. We've got folks in Singapore, in South Africa, in Australia, that we consult with and work with and mentor and teach. And so there was a need for online, courses. And Blair, do you want to talk a little bit about the Horsework Facilitator program?
Yeah, sure. So like Deb mentioned, we've got a suite of professional development stuff. And again, part of our mission at Strides is, we have 3 horses in our brand, right? The first horse is about direct service. The second horse is about professional development. And the third horse, is about research. And one of the things that we have found, too, as it relates to research, is that people are trained so many different ways. It makes it difficult to generalize what you're doing and that project, to be able to say that anybody could take what you did in your research project and replicate it. If everybody's trained differently, we also don't know, is the facilitator or the horse that makes the difference as to the outcomes of your program. And so we really tried to create some training opportunities to create just that, not tell people how to do it, but teach them the competencies they need to make the decisions with their clients in the moment, that are grounded in those competencies and that keep them within the scope of practice of learning. So we have the online classes, which are a great kind of introduction into learning about some of those foundational theories, learning about some of the basic skills, looking at the industry and getting an overview. And then we also have a training program. So again, one of the things that the biggest challenge we faced trying to build up our own professional competencies is a lack of training. Again, that's changed in the last 5 years, which is awesome to see. There's still very little consistency in what people are offering, but we started doing training programs, I think we're going on 7 years ago, maybe a little bit longer. But it was because we wanted to provide that opportunity for people. So we have a training program that we offer. It's called the Horsework Facilitator Training. And we do live workshops. We do 3 workshops, one focused on the horse, one focused on facilitation skills, and one focused on program development. So that's about evaluating your programs. How do you structure and create one? How do you assess the need in your community and how that pertains to your sustainability as a business? And so those are kind of those hardcore skills. And then there's an online component to it as well. And the online component consists of some filling of the gaps as it relates to that depth of learning that we talked about. So really getting into a topic. So we meet over the phone, which we're supposed to meet this Sunday. And we talk and we discuss case studies and how do we apply what we've learned. And then there's also a component of practicum. We want people to go and practice it. You know, you can't teach somebody about horse interaction and relationship and behavior online. You can't teach that in a vacuum. You know, they have to experience it and dive in and start working with clients. So we ask them to video what they are doing, and we offer feedback. And we're really accessible, which I think kind of makes us different. We don't just go away when people are doing online. You know, I'm also a professor, and it really is hard doing this, you know, total Zoom environment that we are in now. We don't want to lose, you know, the personal connection. We also utilize Marco Polo, which is a way for people like in the moment to ask a question, and then we can answer that back. So we provide lots of opportunity for relationship and exchange, so they can still learn and be mentored through the process. And then our training program ends with a capstone. So we want them to take all of the learning and we want them to create their own program. So we have really enjoyed the development of curriculum. It's been a really foundational part of horsework and of strides to success. I don't know, Deb, when you wrote your first curriculum for cowboy poetry, but that was a long time ago. And, you know, they take a couple of years, you know, up to 5 years, sometimes longer to create, because we need to really make sure that the programs and things that we're putting out there are high quality and they're evidence-based. And so we want our horsework people to do the same thing.
And sustainable.
Yeah, and be sustainable. And so the end of the training program ends with a capstone. So they take what is their personal passion and their personal, you know, mission. What population they want to work with. Do they want to do retreats? Do they want to just do lessons one-on-one? Do they want to work with groups? Whatever that is, and they create their own capstone project. And they end up with about 220 hours of training.
Wow.
When it's all said and done. And it takes about a year to go through. And we're excited that we've been able to offer that. So we don't put through high volume. That's not what we're looking for. We're looking at really mentoring and holding hands and helping people through this road trip. It's not a journey. That makes it sound too fluffy bunny. It is a road trip. Because there's flat tires and detours and wrong ways and getting lost. Well, all of it.
And the other neat thing is, once someone has gone through our training and become a horsework facilitator, we hold hands with them like forever. When there's a research project that comes up, we give them, you know, the opportunity to join in and submit data, and then we share it amongst ourselves, so that it empowers all of us to be able to write grants and have numbers, you know, that support the work. And consultation is like forever. I feel like we're creating sister centers, and HETRA is one of them. I mean,
Absolutely.
we came there several times, and it's like when you
We
need
love coming to play with you guys.
yeah. But at any rate, it's really nice to have a network of highly trained professionals. And the thing is it's not by a particular model. We're growing their intelligence to be able to make their own decisions and create their own curriculums. It's not a cookie cutter. You have to follow this and this and this. We're creating thinkers.
This episode could be sponsored by you. We are currently building our sponsor team for 2022. If you know a professional or a business that could benefit from marketing to our audience and the equine assisted service community, let us know. Drop their name and contact info in the suggestion box at hetrauniversity.org.
Yeah.
We're creating people that can adjust and flow, and any community opportunity that is brought to them, they're going to have the foundation and the skills to be able to take that opportunity and mold it into a high quality program and be able to place a value on it. That's another thing that we teach. We teach people how to value their work, because we are highly against people doing this work for free. We're trying to build careers that people can support themselves with. And so that's super important to us.
Yeah. So that they can have a career doing what they love. And, that's, again, that middle horse, that professional development piece. We travel, like you said, to you guys, we travel all over to do workshops and to train staff. They don't have to go through the full horsework training program. We host workshops at our barn. We're starting to do curriculum workshops and online training specifically for curriculum if people want to dive in and learn. We've got 12, 13 curriculum books now at this point that we sell. Which again are part of our business plan, and it's such a joy to be able to document what we do and what we learn and to share that with others. So there's opportunity, I think, for everybody to learn from each other, and there should never be this idea of territorialism or this idea that you're I don't know what the word is, but we can all play nice in the sandbox, because there's so much need that goes around or so much need that needs to be addressed. And there's so much we can learn from each other. And I think that super collaborative, attitude or
building that community
of strides.
Yeah. I think not pigeonholing yourself into a very specific way to do things, rather building, creating informed practitioners, right? So why do we do these things and what do we want to do? And you make the best decisions based on what you have in front of you. And it's never cookie cutter in anything that we do, especially when you add horses, right? So it's creating that informed practitioner.
The one thing you can expect is the unexpected.
Right. That's right.
And we're also the first ones to refer people to specific trainings, that if it's appropriate for them. Occasionally you'll get someone that just wants to do corporate work or wants a high level of corporate work that they've got their vision built around. And so because we've been to almost every training there is we can advise them and send them to other professionals that we're connected with, and refer. So really it's client-centered work. It's no different from our clients, but it's professional-centered. If we think that, we're hearing from a particular person that they've had this and this and this training, what else is it that they need? And we're very open to really create the best path for them, professionally to go.
You bring up such a good point, Deb, because a lot of the trainings will say, what you've had before doesn't count. You have to start over with us. And, we think that every experience that they've had before they arrive on our doorstep is so important and it's valuable. Some people have invested thousands of dollars in getting trained, and at the end, they don't feel like they still have everything that they need. And that should be honored. It should be like, okay, we get that. You know what? All of the hours that you're supposed to get in, because we do have some self-study hours as a part of our program, that all counts. You can bring it with you and build on it. And, because every experience and training that we've had, even if it's not horse related, has impacted the way we facilitate.
Or even if it's not official, right? I mean, I know so many people that have less hours in a classroom than I do that are way more qualified to do anything that I can do. So I think that experiential piece is huge too. It shapes us into who we are, no matter if it was in a classroom or not.
It was funny. I think the last time we were there, we had your staff do an activity, and I think we did the tarp activity, but we did it with a rug. And it's about problem solving and facilitation. And I've got some great pictures of your staff doing that activity on a rug in the classroom, and, really helping people explore their own personal styles and their strengths, and really honoring what they bring to the table. That's what makes an empowered and confident instructor. Yeah. Somebody that can just say, you know what, I've got this. And if I don't know the answer, I know where to go.
Mm-hmm. Tell me a little bit about what was the rug activity? I wasn't there. I'm a new full-time staff here as in the last couple of years. So tell me about the rug activity. What is this? I'm intrigued now. I need to know.
So I know I've got lots of, again, when I made that connection between experiential ed and horses, all of a sudden I was like, I went through every single book that I have on experiential ed activities. And I'm like, how can I incorporate a horse into this? How does this benefit the horse and the human? How can we do this? I mean, yeah. So the activity, which I don't want to give it away, so I'm not going to give the title, but the idea is that you are on a life raft, right? And your life raft has a hole in the bottom of it. And the only way you're going to survive is if you flip that life raft over, right? And you crawl on top of it. Mm-hmm. But here's the thing is that all the area around, which was the rug, because that's all we could find at the time, is filled with sharks. And so you can't step off of it, because if you step off of it, you're going to lose one of your party, or they're going to lose a limb. You never know what might happen. We call that the strange and wonderful. And I don't take credit for that. I picked that up from another facilitator. But when you do this with the horse is on the life raft with you, and the horse becomes the most important thing in your world. What is most important to you in this world that you couldn't imagine living without? And it was funny. I remember doing this too with some teenagers, and the horse became their cell phone. And I'm like, oh, okay. I've got teenage daughters. I can see how, yeah, okay. The horse is your cell phone. I'm like, I'm going to honor that. But anyway, that's the idea, is how do they flip their boat over without stepping off? And when you're working with a horse, depending upon what you're standing on in the arena, it could be a tarp or a canvas or whatever the prop is that you have. You have to honor that horse might be afraid, or that horse might not like it. So what do you do? And that's where the problem solving and really honoring that most important asset in your life, and really paying attention to other people. Now, the activity we did with the Hetra staff was not with the horses. It was in the classroom. And I think there were like 15 people on this tiny rug that may have been like not even 5 by 7. It was hilarious. Got some good pictures. If I can find one, I'll send one to you. So
please do.
Your listeners can see what that looks like. They had a great time.
Good. Okay. Well, I've kept you guys long enough. We can kind of wrap up here a little bit, but I am closing season 2. So season 1 was when I closed episodes, we closed with Tell Me About Your Heart Horse. And season 2, we are getting a little bit more, I would say personal, but a little bit more specific, I guess, with our topics. And I think something that is always really eye-opening to me and touching is your why. So I don't know who wants to go first, but maybe Debbie, you can go first about why do you do what you do and why do you keep coming back for Strides to Success?
When I was a kid, I spent 8 hours a day with this old horse that, in my eyes, he was Black Beauty. In reality, he was, old and sore and probably not the best looking thing, but in my eyes, he was gorgeous. And he was such a faithful friend through so many trials that I experienced as a kid. And I could always trust him. I could trust that he would be there, and I could trust that he would provide comfort. And when it came time to go to college, I was so focused on being with that horse that I couldn't think of any career. I mean, of course, back then you had your choice as a housewife or a secretary or, and now there's a bazillion choices, but I wanted to stay with the animals. So I studied veterinarian technology and did that for a while, but it didn't give me the same satisfaction. I kept coming back to the horses. And I think God made me to be a peacemaker, to help people, and to do it through animals. And when you're in alignment with what gifts and strengths that God has given you, then you're doing what you're supposed to do. And every day God tells me, get up, put your boots on, put your jeans on first because your boots won't fit, and go to the barn, go to the barn. And every single day, like Strides doesn't advertise locally. We don't advertise at all. And every single day, God brings people up that driveway, and I call them assignments, and you never know why they're there. Sometimes they're there to give you a gift. Sometimes they're there for you to give them a gift, but it's God's plan. And so I'm supposed to be there. I'm supposed to do what I do because that's what God tells me to do. And he provides all the resources to do that. He provides the horses. He provides the people. He provides the clients. And it just keeps coming. And as long as it keeps coming, I know I'm supposed to still go there. And that's my why.
Okay, audience. If you're not crying, you are maybe the only person listening that's not. That was beautiful. I can't agree more. That's where my why comes from as well. Blair, what about you? What's your why?
So, like Deb, when I was younger, I had kind of an interesting upbringing. I was an oops baby. And so my sisters are much older than I am. And my mom had gone back to work, and she would kind of put me in these positions, I think, to keep me busy more than anything. But I started working for the zoo when I was 12 because she was on their board. And I got to work with elephants, and I got to work with ostriches and primates, and, and not stuff that people 12 years old could do, anymore. But I helped to feed, and I've cleaned cages, I think, my entire life. I think I was put on the earth to scoop poop of all different kinds, because that's been the theme. So I started kind of becoming really fascinated with this idea of, why is it that I am much more comfortable around animals than I am people? Why is it that I can connect? And I'm fascinated. She also went on to to lead the Humane Society here locally. And so I grew up there. Again, I got really fascinated with the science of the relationship, what's happening. I got fascinated with the science of the behavior. And so I made a decision that I was going to be a vet, and there was just nothing else to it. And I quickly learned that being a veterinarian was not where I was supposed to be. I couldn't pass a math class to save my life, but I was still very interested in the behavior. And I was part of the Young Scientists Club when I was in high school. And I was introduced to scientists that did animal behavior. I did my first research study when I was 16. I still have it. It's like written on notebook paper. It's hilarious. You know, there was always something too that I found fascinating that was different about horses. Horses were my safe place. And whenever I had a problem, that was always the place that I wanted to run to. Even though I'd had all these wonderful experiences with lots of other animals. And then when I went to college, I had a hard time figuring out where I belonged, and I found recreation therapy. And all of a sudden I was like, oh my God, I found my people. They're all energetic. They're all, a little bit, a little bit ADD. They love activity and want to do things. And so I said, I want to do Dolphin-Assisted Therapy. And they were like, what? And so I went and I found, I met the gal who runs Island Dolphin Care, or what is now Island Dolphin Care, down in Key Largo. And I was, again, fascinated because it was a whole other dimension of the human-animal bond. But like I said, when I got back, I went straight back to the barn. So I kind of embarked on just this journey of really trying to learn, what is it about connecting with nature? What is it about being with the horses? Why are the horses different? When I did my master's thesis and I defended it, I did it on literacy in horses. And they asked me, they're like, why is it horses and not dogs? What is the difference? So I actually had to go back and rewrite half my thesis. And so I think too, I thought, okay, there's something to this. There's something in this why that I'm supposed to be looking at. Why is it horses and not other animals? And I've done lots of other things in my life. I have run away from the barn. And I remember after the last time that I left the barn, I was working for a big therapeutic riding center as an administrator, and my husband lost his job. And I had to leave to go find a corporate job because I needed benefits. And I was there for about 2.5 years. And I called Debbie, and I was just bawling one day sitting in my cubicle. And I'm like, I don't care if I have insurance. I don't care. I'm like, I have to come back. I have to come back to the horses. I'm like, Debbie, I need to come see you because I know it's not therapeutic riding where I belong. It's the relationship. There's something there. So anyway, I didn't mean to speak for so long, but it's interesting because life always brings me back to the barn. Always. Life always brings me back to the horses and then trying to figure it out.
I think that's the beautiful part about life sometimes is we don't always know why. And our entire life's journey is sometimes just figuring that out. And I think that's a really beautiful thing too.
Yep. And you're exactly right. I'm still trying to figure it out, but I know that I keep coming back to it. And I know that I'm supposed to keep studying this. So I'm going to keep studying it.
There you go. That's the point of it. And we're all here. Everyone who's listening right now, me, both of you wonderful women, we're all here because life brings us back to the barn. And we sometimes don't know why, but by gall, we need to share it. And that's why we're doing a podcast, right?
Absolutely.
Okay. Well, I honestly just can't thank you both enough. I know I kept you quite a long time, but I had such a fun time talking to you guys, and I learned so much. I know our listeners will too. And I just wanted to remind our listeners that if you have any questions, either for Blair or Debbie or myself, I'm happy to field those. All you have to do is go to hetriuniversity.org and click on questions. And I'm happy to field those all from there. So I'll link everything I can in the show notes, including the Strides to Success website. Happy to share that for you guys. Is there any parting words that you would like to share?
We're here. We are happy to answer people's questions if they have any, and we're always pretty accessible and available.
Yeah, I just, we're passionate about this work. we're passionate about helping people to do this work. And so sometimes we can be a little slow, at least me, to respond to emails, but I always get there. So feel free to contact us. No question is too small.
Well, thank you so much, both of you. And I wish you all the best in this new year we find ourselves in.
Awesome. We know it's going to be a good one. It's much better than last year.
Amen.
Thanks for listening to another episode. Until the next one launches, stay connected to our community by joining the Not Just a Pony Ride Facebook group. There, we share exclusive educational content, answer your questions, and review new and exciting developments for the EAS community. Don't forget, if you have suggestions for future episode topics or a lead on a great guest that you think our audience would enjoy, click on the link in the show notes or visit us at hetrauniversity.org. This podcast is presented by Hetra University, an educational arm of the Heartland Equine Therapeutic Riding Academy. Hetra University's mission is to provide high-quality educational offerings to our participants and the EAS community. If you'd like to help us work toward our mission, you can make a donation by visiting us online at hetra.org. Again, I can't thank you all enough for helping Hetra change lives, one stride at a time.